Okay, so on your end, we're having this podcast during a blackout on a very hot day in the Bay Area.
Hmm.
You haven't heard anything about when it might end?
No, we just got a text message about it, but it didn't say anything about it being planned. So I think
Hmm,
it's probably the weather.
for sure, yeah.
And yeah, and today was grocery shopping day, so there's food that we
Oh
just
no,
got that just might end up being ruined.
it's bad
So
timing.
yeah, it sucks. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't last too long. There's no
Yeah.
wildfires there, are there?
Not that I noticed, but there were a couple like in the weeks before.
Hmm. Well, we had talked about talking today about narrative. I had seen a clip of the historian Yuval Noah Harari, I think is his name, on Lex Friedman. And yeah, wrote down something in the journal, just a little, very kind of what I found was a powerful idea. That idea that humans are superior to have prevailed over other species like Neanderthals because of our story making and collective believing capacity, which is very powerful. Things like countries, and money are stories that people collectively believe and that bring them together. But this especially hit me when the stories do not serve things and people, but people serve them when it goes the other way around. This can be very bad in society and history. Yeah, I thought that was very powerful. So yeah, he lives in the Middle East where especially, he talked about how, Jerusalem is just a normal city like anywhere else, but this particular building or this particular site is where a special figure from history walked or did something. And that's why it's really special. It's this retelling of this story connected to this site that makes this place sacred and also fought over. But yeah, this idea of narrative not only being powerful, that's kind of like a sort of in general a common idea of our time, but when instead of the narrative serving us, we you could view it as like we get it confused and we start to see the story itself as more important than the people and things. To me, yeah, that this is bad. That seems like a very powerful idea when it seems like if we could keep in mind, and I think Eastern religions do keep this in mind more, the sort of irony about stories and that people and things are more important, that society, that events, that human lives are more important than the stories themselves. But I
Mhm.
think I wonder if maybe you could say in the Abrahamic religions, we tend to view the stories as more important than everything else sometimes. And,
Mhm.
maybe that helps lead to religious wars and xenophobia and everything.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I feel like yeah, probably just kind of a mindset difference or something.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, where and I think that kind of influences just even how we read and like interpret stuff. So
Hmm.
I feel like West is like very kind of data driven or like information driven. So like, or like, I guess then like when we read these stories, like maybe we kind of get kind of caught up in like trying to get information or some special information and stuff.
Mm. Mm.
And uh, maybe like a lot of the
Information
time,
as opposed to wisdom,
yeah, information. And then like we feel like special or I don't know, special or kind of better in some way, like by
because
having,
we have privileged information.
yeah, yeah. So like, so, so yeah, it kind of becomes the opposite of what a story should be. Like rather than imparting wisdom and stuff, it's kind of feeding kind of ego. And I think that might be part of the uh when stories just aren't like become kind of self-serving, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, we the story becomes realized in the sense of it is treated as reality rather than
Hmm.
as a story, as a way to
Hmm.
tell information, but the information and the way is to serve a purpose and not to be necessarily a thing in itself, at least from this perspective that we're sort of
Yeah,
analyzing this.
yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's probably one reason why this happens a lot, at least here.
We treat the story as like property or something,
Yeah, like property or like
part of
some,
identity.
yeah, identity or something that's kind of for you and maybe not just for kind of greater humanity or something. Um,
For you and your
and
group.
yeah, yeah. So it becomes like something divisive, then that kind of leads to like, thinking of there's people here that kind of understand the story, and then at least from our understanding, and the people that don't, or the outsiders.
Yeah, at least from our understanding, I think that's especially an older way that Christians thought used to think. I mean, they of course had religious wars over different interpretations and conceptions
Mhm.
of God. It's really interesting that you would have a war over a conception of God. I mean, I know that sounds somewhat ridiculous to our ears, but I'm just trying to think, of why they would do that. But yeah, it's like their conception of God. They must have viewed the conception as part of the holiness, the sacredness, the reality of God. And if someone else has a different conception and they're arguing for that, they are in maybe in some way committing blasphemy.
Mhm.
They are doing some disrespect, some wrong to God.
Mhm.
And you
Yeah.
must, yeah, you can't let that happen.
Yeah, that's I guess where like the serving the story part comes from that quote because you kind of see it as something you need to protect or defend. When it's really when the story itself is just something that you know
Yeah, it's meant to serve
doesn't really
us.
require that. Yeah, it's meant to serve and not cause all of these problems
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
people are causing on its behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, stories still seem very, very powerful. Not when I won't say you view them as just stories, you view them as something important more than just a story, whatever that means.
Mhm.
A really, or you could just say a really good story, a meaningful, powerful. Yeah. And it could be part of a sacred canon and you bless that and everything. But yeah, when you start to treat it as something more than that, and yeah, it has a reality greater than things and people, that seems, yeah, to get put the cart before the horse.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just thought that was a very powerful idea. Just thought I might share that.
Yeah.
I don't have any more thoughts on that.
You know, kind of just similar thoughts of how like a story doesn't really need you or doesn't need someone, but more people need the story. And maybe trying to think of it that way or might help and like not falling too hard into kind of extremism when it comes to
Right.
interpreting these things.
To not personify the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, to not personify the story, to not, dare we say, deify it, but instead
Yeah.
to, yeah, the things that are people, and the things that are things, and what stories are stories.
Mm,
And they help us to learn things, they give us comfort. Yeah, we in some way think in stories and we communicate and connect and become groups around stories. But yeah, to not, yeah, can't you view them as as sacred, as part of a canon, as things to take in, to emulate, to learn from, uh, and interpret and everything without, yeah, being so rigid about it and dogmatic, and to start to,
mm,
I don't know what yeah, but people are very touchy about their symbols, their flags or
mm,
whatever. And I guess the story can become like that. Certain stories can become like that. And I would say though, for other people's stories, I mean, it's important to respect them, not to just flippantly trash, disregard, or be careless with them.
mm.
One doesn't want to offend others too, needlessly. But yeah, yeah, one doesn't want to deify a story. Maybe is that's it's good not to do that. Okay. Well, any more thoughts?
No, but yeah, I feel this could spur a lot more thoughts later on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I think it's a
yeah,
very powerful idea. I really like it.
yeah,
And I really like that he took something like narrative, which is something that we sort of in the modern West sort of, I don't know, emphasize as like reality in some way. I
mm,
think probably in postmodernism they do
mm,
all sorts of crazy stuff with that. But he took that kind of commonly upheld and thought of idea, and then yeah, really put a really important, great, inspiring way of sort of thinking about it.
mm.
So, yeah, I'm glad I could share that. And yeah, let's talk more about this when we have more mulling over done
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah. I'd look forward to it.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.